Okay, this is the 8th video about kinematics and calculus. This will give us probably the most difficult and most useful thing for integration that you'll learn, something called U-substitution. And you'll get a lot more of this in your math class later, just the basics for now. It does get very complicated, but what you're going to see in this class is not too bad. What you're going to use it for is functions like this. Y equals e to the 4x. Well, what's the antiderivative, or the integral of that? Well, we know what the integral of e to the x is, so e to the 4x shouldn't be too difficult. Let's start by making a guess. Let's guess that the integral is e to the 4x plus c. That seems reasonable. We've seen that when we took the derivative of e to the 4x, we got e to the 4x, or something like that. So let's take the derivative of that. Well, when we take the derivative of this, we've got the chain rule. So we have e to the 4x, but we also have to take the derivative of the 4x to get 4. And so we're off by a factor of 4, and that means that the actual answer is 1/4 e to the 4x plus c, which turns out to be correct. But what we're going to do as a way to make this a little easier to remember, we're going to substitute another function instead of the 4x. So we're going to rewrite y, which is e to the 4x, as e to the u, where u is another function that equals 4x in this case. And what we have now, we have the integral of e to the 4x dx, which is now e to the u dx. There's a bit of a problem here, though. Our integral has a u in it, but our variable of integration is x. So what we need to do is change the variable of integration to u. So we need a way of relating du to dx. And so what we'll say is, okay, dx du. We'll take the derivative. Now we have an equation that has dx and du in it. Or it's not dx over du, sorry. We want to find du dx. And u is just 4x. The derivative of that is simply 4. And so one way we can rearrange this to get dx equals du divided by 4. Seems simple enough. Or another way of writing this is, no, never mind. We'll just leave it like that. And then we'll put this dx into that equation. And so we have the integral of e to the u times du over 4. Well, that 4 is a constant. It can come out the front of the integral. And that looks like something we can do. E to the u du, that's just e to the u plus c. But then we want to put it back into, drop the pen. We want to put it back into our original equation, put the 4x back. And so we get 1 over 4 times e to the 4x plus c, and there's our answer, which is what we got before. It looks complicated at this point, but it gets pretty easy. I'm not going to work that example for now, but I am going to write down the answer so that you can work it on your own. So the integral of 4 sine 3 pi t is going to end up equaling 4 divided by 3 pi times the cosine of 3 pi t plus c. Make sure you can get that answer. Moving on to the most difficult integral you're going to see in this class. It's more difficult than anything on your homework assignment, really. You want to find the integral of sine t times cosine to the 4th t. And you look at this and you think, oh god, that's awful. But you notice something. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. So our u substitution in this case is going to be a bit more complicated, but we'll say that u is equal to cosine t. And du dt is equal to negative sine t, with the result that the dt is going to go away along with the sine. So we'll have dt is equal to negative du over sine t. We'll put that all into this. So that cosine to the 4th, that just becomes u to the 4th. And we have sine t, and then the dt is negative du over sine t, and the signs cancel out, and we're left with negative u to the 4th du, which we know how to do. We use the power law, n equals 4. So we keep the negative sign out front. We have 1 over n plus 1 times u raised to the n plus 1 power plus c. Now we'll substitute back in for u, and we'll say that this is equal to negative 1/5 cosine to the 5th t plus c, and there's our answer. Those were a couple of examples of substitution. The first one is going to be very common. The second one will happen only occasionally. There's 3 or 4 problems on your homework assignment, sort of like the second one. What I'm going to check tomorrow are problems 20 and 27, but you should be able to do all of the problems on the handout at this point.